Never mind.
Awesome. All right. Hey, we're live. Hey, it's Jeremiah Taylor here at Ojo. Welcome to our May Masterclass. Can't believe it's the last day of May already. For those of you just joining, jump on in the chat. Tell us where you're joining us from today. We're excited for an amazing masterclass. And I'll start. I'm in Austin, Texas this morning. Pop in the chat there and tell us where you are. Oh, there you go. Awesome. Tampa, South Haven, Long Island, Columbia. See another ATX, Jacksonville, Temecula. All right, there we go. Y'all are getting it. Cool. Hey, everybody. If you're just joining us, welcome. My name is Jeremiah Taylor, part of the Ojo team here. Excited to host our May Masterclass for you today. If you're just joining, join Chris Heller in Umbria, Italy, and tell us where you're joining from. Chris, it's weird. Umbria's skyline looks awfully familiar to me. It looks a lot like Austin's skyline today.
Well, that's one of the reasons I like it. I feel so at home here because it feels like Austin.
Awesome. Port St. Lucie, Siobhan Fox. I like Port St. Lucie. Cool. We will give it 30 more seconds. For those of you just joining us, hello, welcome to our May Masterclass. We've got an amazing guest speaker for you today. If you're just joining, pop it in the chat where you're joining us from. A little bit of housekeeping today. We're going to have about 45 minutes of amazing content for you from Nikki Miller. Today's all about mindset, and I'll let Chris introduce her and kind of give you a higher level. But you're going to want to make sure that you stay tuned all the way to the end, because our merch giveaway is going to be back at the end of today's masterclass. So in the last 10 minutes, we're going to do a quick how to win with Ojo. We're going to give away some free Ojo merch, and it's going to be a good time. So Chris, I'll let you take it from here and lead us away.
Everyone, first of all, thanks for taking time out of your day to join us. We do these for you, right? We do these to provide value. We do these to help you grow your business. And our team does a fantastic job on getting great talent. And today is no exception. If you don't know Nikki, by the end of this call, you will, and you will appreciate her as that we do. I was fortunate enough to meet Nikki a couple of years ago. We were on a panel, and I was instantly impressed with her intellect, with her thought process, with her ability to communicate, and she's also just a good human being. So Nikki is the founder and CEO of a company called the Lead Syndicate. And it's really I don't think, Nikki, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there is another company like this out there that does exactly what you do. And basically, it's a platform for individual agents. She has over 125 agent partners in 24 different states. And Nikki provides the leads, the training, the accountability, the platform for these agents to add incremental business to their business and to grow even bigger and faster. So that's what she does. But what she really does is she is able to speak with people like you and us today about things that cause, I'm sorry for moving my camera, to cause things for us to be able to achieve more and to get past the struggles and hurdles that we all have to deal with. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Nikki Miller.
Well, thank you so much. Chris, I don't even know if you remember this, but Chris wouldn't know, but I remember, because Chris was like a real estate god when I was coming up. And
the young professionals, actually, yes.
That's when we first met, when I was, I think the ripe age of 22 years old. And I got invited to do into like a small room mastermind with the Chris Heller at 6 o'clock in the morning in Las Vegas. And I just remember like being so nervous and so excited. and you were as incredible that day. You're even more incredible today, but thank you for being a longtime teacher of mine, a longtime mentor of mine. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me. You know, I originally had something entire, when they asked me to do the master class, I wanted to get super tactical, and I had something entirely different planned for all of you, and then did a sharp left turn when Chris and I started having a conversation about what would be valuable, because normally people bring me on, like, as Chris said, we've got, you know, agents in 125 locations across 25 states. We support hundreds of agents' businesses. And so most of the time when someone asks me to come on, they want me to talk about, you know, we've got a very unique business model, or they want me to talk about scale or conversion or negotiation or leadership. And I knew coming into this that you guys have had some incredible guest speakers on here, and you have no shortage of tactical advice on all of those things. No shortage of amazing people that you could learn from, and use those things to implement in your business. But the truth is, everything that I just mentioned is really important, right? Being skilled at those things, or having leadership in your organization that are skilled at those things, is really important, but not nearly as important in what I believe is what we're going to be talking about and uncovering today. And I had a really pivotal moment in my own business and in my own mindset a couple weeks ago with my coach. And I was talking to him, and I was just sharing some of my frustrations, you know, that business wasn't going perfectly for me. Anyone else on this call have business that's not going perfectly right now? Give me a virtual hand up in the chat box. I was sharing that I'm sort of feeling the proverbial business punch to the face. And I said to him, I said, you know, I always thought that, like, when you grew your business in real estate, and you grew a really big business, and you raised your hand and said, I'm going to do the hard things, like, eventually you did it for long enough that you just sort of got to the promised land where, like, you were exempt from having to deal with any of the hard stuff anymore. And eventually you got to walk through the golden gates of real estate, and they gave you a pat on the back and said, like, okay, you did all the hard stuff. Good job. You don't need to do these hard things anymore. And I said, you know, like, I just thought that one day I would be exempt from things sucking, basically. And like, maybe I just got to finally unlock this level of real estate, and then all the limiting beliefs would go away, and success would be easy, and I wouldn't have any problems anymore. And I'm sort of pontificating on this to my coach, who's laughing at me. And I said, you know, at this point in my business, I sort of feel like some days I'm trying to steer a cruise ship with a baseball bat, and, like, it just doesn't feel good. Like, things are not going well, coach. And he said, are you done? And I said, you know what? I'm not done, because I'm a salesperson like all of you. And I said, frankly, things are just really hard. And I was giving him all of the reasons that I just wasn't fulfilling my potential. All of the reasons I was prepping myself for, all the reasons that I wouldn't be able to do what I promised myself, my organization, my people, I set out to do. I was sort of selling why these things aren't happening now and were going to happen in the future. And I was just really, when I look back on it, I was just advocating for all of the limiting beliefs that were popping into my head, as they do when life and when business gets hard, because that's what happens. Our limiting beliefs, when life gets hard, start to get even louder. And so he just let me talk for a minute, and he was listening to me like a good coach does. And then he was just quiet, and we just sat there staring at each other for a while. And finally I broke first, and I said, like, are you going to say anything? You're going to yell at me? You're going to motivate me? Like, what are we going to do here? And he said, I'm just waiting for you to decide. And I said, decide what? And he said, I'm just waiting for you to decide to let the lion out of the cage. Call me back when you do. And he hung up. And I sat there off the phone for a second and thought to myself two things. Number one, this coach is very expensive, so I don't know if I'm going to be reimbursed for, like, the 20 minutes that we were only on the call for about 10 minutes of me complaining, and I don't know that I'm getting reimbursed for the 20 minutes that we missed, firstly. And secondly, I don't know what that means. Like, I have no idea what my coach just told me. And then he hung up, and I knew at that point, knowing him as I do, that I wouldn't be getting a call back until I figured it out. Well, I didn't figure it out. I didn't really know what that meant, and so I did the only logical thing that I could think of, which was that weekend I took my daughter to the zoo, and we checked out all the animals, and of course we had to, stop by the lion exhibit. This is sort of running in the back of my head, and I listened to the zookeeper talk about the lions. They were sort of doing like a tour for everybody, and they were talking about their behavior. And they talked about the fact that in the wild, lions won't sleep as much as they do in captivity. In captivity, they'll sleep anywhere from 20 to 22 hours a day. By the way, I have a toddler, so that's like a sleep schedule I could get on board with. So they're just talking about how uniquely when lions are in captivity, they sleep this much. And then as everyone sort of moved on with the tour, I saw one of the lions, she got up from the place that she was sleeping, and I just started to watch her sort of prowl around. She got up from that platform she was sleeping on, and I saw her muscles rippling, and I watched her sort of walk towards us. And at one point I made eye contact with her, and I just locked eyes with her for a minute. And I thought to myself, I wonder if she ever longs to run wild. Like, I wonder if she ever gets up and thinks to herself with all these people staring in at the cage, I'm just not meant to be in here. I'm a lion. And then I pictured it in the wild, what it would look like for a lion to run wild. She stalks her prey, attacking and killing at will, and then goes in search of her next conquest, because that's what her lion instincts tell her to do. And we don't judge her, and we're not mad at her, because she's just being a lion. Now lock her up in a cage and she'll lie there all day, quiet, lethargic, and well-fed. What happened to those lion instincts? They're still there, just deep inside, waiting to be uncaged. And if you put her out in the wild, she'll go lion again, preying and attacking. Put her back in the cage and she'll lie down. And I thought to myself, man, I think people are a lot like the lion in the cage. Quiet, tame, docile, waiting for something to happen in their lives. But our cage isn't made of bars and glass. Our cage is made of bad advice, low self-esteem, rules, torturous thinking about what we are and are not capable of, and all of these limiting beliefs that we say to ourselves on replay over and over and over again. They're molded around us by a lifetime of overthinking, overanalyzing, and worry about what might go wrong. And if you stay in that cage long enough, you'll forget your basic instincts. You'll forget that you're a lion. And so I called my coach after that and I said, I got it. I think I got it. You see, I've coached thousands of agents and successful business owners at this point, and I've come to understand one basic principle of success. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you are not. And it's not what you're capable of that holds you back. It's what you believe to be impossible simply because you haven't seen it done before. What do you believe to be impossible simply because you haven't seen it done before? Because you've been living in a cage for so long that you forgot what you're capable of when you run wild. And by the way, in the real estate business right now, that could be all of the limiting beliefs of everybody around us. The talk about the market, the talk about the economy, the talk about interest rates, inventory, whatever it is for you. But by the way, I can name countless businesses that have been built in this same economy. Countless real estate businesses that have taken territory when the market was hard. You can too, Chris. And so we have to ask ourselves, are these real? Or have I just made a decision to stay in the cage? So when I was thinking about what I could talk to you about today, what would really make an impact for you, I thought to myself, well, a good coach, a good leader will open the door to the cage and they'll tell you to get out, right? A great coach, a great leader will teach you that you never belonged in there in the first place and will teach you how to get out yourself. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to teach you how to get out of the cage. And the only way that I know how to do this, by the way, guys, is to be authentic. So buckle up because some of this might not feel good. And we're going to go through the questions that I personally use when I'm feeling stuck. And by the way, I want you guys to hear that nobody's exempt from this. All the people that you admire in real estate and business, whatever it is, all those people that you admire who think that they wake up and they drink gasoline and they wake up and they're on fire, none of them are exempt. Absolutely none. All of them have these things that play in their mind, these challenges that they face, these limiting beliefs that come up, and yet they make a decision to work through them. They make a decision to run wild. They make a decision to follow those basic instincts anyway. So I want you guys to hear that nobody is exempt from this, and we can't solve our problems with the same thinking that we use to create them. right? We have to learn to think differently. We have to learn to behave differently. And so I'm going to give you a set of questions that I use whenever I'm feeling stuck, whenever I'm feeling like I'm in the cage, to help me get out, to help me break out of the mindset that I'm in, to help me get out of the limiting beliefs that I'm caging around myself, to get out of this place that I'm in, that it's not allowing me to move forward, that it's not allowing me to realize my maximum potential. So I want you guys to answer these as we go through them. We're going to go through them pretty quickly, intentionally, because I don't want you to overthink it. This is not licensed for everybody to overthink. This is an opportunity for you to answer these and get yourself unstuck if you're feeling there. So I'm going to share my screen really quick, and give me a second to make sure that this comes up correctly. Can you guys see that? Awesome. All right. So my first question, this is my favorite question of all. I probably ask this to my team, I don't know, at least once a day, at least. I often will wake up in the morning and text it to my whole operations team to just make sure that there's nothing getting in our way. And the very first question I always ask is, what action am I avoiding by making this more complicated than it actually is? What action am I avoiding by making this more complicated than it actually is? Success is simple, guys. It's very simple. And the truth is, we overcomplicated what is very simple, and then we stop trusting ourselves to make the right decision. So success is quite simple, not easy, by the way. By the way, the right action forward is not the easy action forward most of the time. So we have to make peace with the fact that what we're usually overcomplicating is an avoidance of the right step forward. So if we can understand that the right action forward, the right step forward is usually the challenging one, then we can open up ourselves to ask, what action am I avoiding by making this more complicated than it actually is? What work am I avoiding? What step am I not taking? What should I be doing that I'm not, by lying to myself and saying I don't understand it, right? My experience is that success is pretty simple. The right path forward is pretty simple. And we just have to make sure that we're not overcomplicating it in order to avoid what we know comes next, because it's usually dressed a lot like work, right? Question number 2, what am I resisting because it's hard or uncomfortable that will ultimately cost me in the future? What am I resisting because it's hard or uncomfortable that will ultimately cost me in the future? I've come to understand, guys, that there is a mathematical sequence, a science to success. There is a code that we can employ that will catapult us into a life of the extraordinary. And it's our job to follow it. But again, the world is not designed for us to succeed. So we have to make peace with the fact that if we're going to chase that big dream, if we're going to get to success, if our goal is to get to where we want to go, to build the big business, to build the big life, to grow the wealth, whatever it is, if we want to get there, then we have to understand that success is the ultimate rebellion. Living within your productivity, living within your dream is the ultimate rebellion, because the world is not designed for us to succeed. So you're going to have to do the hard thing, which is to stay focused, to get laser focused on what matters to you. And then ask yourself, what are you resisting just because it's hard or uncomfortable, because you'd have to change your behavior that's also ultimately going to cost you in the future? Number 3, what is one activity that I know if I did it consistently, I'm certain it would transform my personal or business life? This is a habit, right? What's a activity? What's a habit? What is a thing, if I did it consistently, would transform my personal, business, or life? Guys, consistency is the most underrated pathway to success. So many of us are looking for the secret bullet. And invariably, every single time I go to an event, somebody stops me in the hallway and asks me some version of the exact same question. And it goes a little something like this. I'll be walking off of a speech, a keynote, something like this. And they'll come to me in the hallway and they'll say, Nikki, nobody's around. And I'm going to ask you a question. And I promise you, I won't tell anybody. This is just between you and me. And they'll say, what's the secret? And I'll say, what secret? What are you talking about? And they'll say, you know, the secret to real estate success that nobody is telling us. Like, what's the magic bullet? And I'll look around and I'll say, okay, you got to promise not to tell anybody. Promise? Have you considered doing the work? Because that's it. That's the pathway to success. It's just doing the thing that you need to do consistently, doing it for long enough that you can actually make manifest the results. And so many of us are looking for a better strategy, but effort sets our floor and strategy sets our ceiling. I can give you a better strategy to get to where you want to go, but if you don't actually take action toward it, it doesn't matter. And I've come to understand that this is one of the greatest versions of limiting beliefs, because most of us know what to do. Sit with that for a second. Most of us know what to do. We know how to get to where we want to go. We know what the path forward is. And because we haven't defined our own worthiness, because we haven't made a stand for our own success, we're unwilling to follow the right strategy in order to get there. We'll give up right before the finish line. And so I understand that someone not doing the right activities more often than not doesn't come down to the fact that they don't know what to do. You know what to do. You got to trust those instincts. Remember, you are the lion. You know what to do. You just might not believe that you're worthy of the outcome if you do that thing for long enough. That's a version of limiting beliefs. So what's the one activity that if you did it consistently, you are certain would transform your personal, business, or life? Number 4, what do I know to be true that I haven't mustered up the courage to admit? What do I know to be true that I haven't mustered up the courage to admit? This is one of my favorite questions to ask myself. Whenever I'm facing a challenge in business, or whenever I'm facing a challenge in a relationship, be it a business relationship, a personal relationship, whatever it is, I'll sit down with my journal and I'll ask myself this: what do I know to be true that I haven't mustered up the courage to admit? Maybe the truth is in this scenario that I'm the jerk, right? That I handled this situation worse than I could have, that I didn't present myself as best as I could have, that I didn't work as hard as I professed that I worked, that I didn't do what I needed to do in order to get there. Maybe I didn't earn it, whatever that looks like, right? This can show up a lot of different ways, but ultimately I have to ask myself, what do I know to be true that I quite simply haven't mustered up the courage to admit? Maybe the truth of the matter is that I've been sitting in this damn cage for so long, I don't even remember what it means to run wild. I don't even remember what it feels like to be a lion, because I've been caged by these limiting beliefs for so long. And now I got to go find a coach to get me out, right? I don't know what it's going to be for you. I would encourage you to answer this question as quickly as you can. This is probably the easiest one to overthink. Number 5, where has my personal growth put a ceiling on my business and my success? I say that every company is built in the founder's image. And so when I'm coaching someone, I'm building their business and they're having challenges, the first place I'm going to start with what is the person's challenges? What is the founder's challenges? The person who's operating this thing, what is their challenge? Because ultimately that always makes manifest in the business as well, because our business never outgrows us, ever. Right? It always grows to the extent that we do. So where has your personal growth put a ceiling on your business and your success? And here's the challenge. If you're somebody who's leading a group of people, you have even more burden to challenge yourself to continue to evolve, because their success is dependent upon your growth. I'm going to say that one more time. Their success is dependent upon your growth, because the way that we effectively lead, this is one of the top questions I get asked. How do I become a better leader? And I'll say the same thing every single time. You get better, more effective at leading yourself. You get better and more effective at leading yourself. You have to grow your ceiling in order for your business and your personal success and growth to exceed it. So we have to understand that our business will never outgrow us. And if we want to move forward, the first place we should be looking is here and asking ourselves, where am I failing my business and where am I failing my people by not growing to my personal possibility? Where am I allowing my limiting beliefs to not only cage me, but also as the leader to in effect cage the business as well, right? Number 6, what would I do even if I knew I was going to fail? One of my favorite questions. This is when I knew I was onto something. I remember when I first came up with the concept for my business. I've been privileged through my life to have a lot of really incredible real estate mentors, a lot of really amazing people around me who have taught me some amazing things and who have absolutely made me the person that I'm proud to be today. And I don't take that lightly. And so when I built the concept for the Lead Syndicate, I went to all of them and said, hey, I got a crazy idea. I want to give agents like all the economies of scale, all the infrastructure, all the support, all the best parts of being on a team without them having to build it or without them actually having to join a team. And by the way, I'm going to allow them to keep and maintain their own brand. I just want them to be able to plug into something that I know works. And I went to a lot of these mentors of mine, and they said, Nikki, you're crazy. This thing's never going to work. And I remember so distinctly going home one day and I said to my husband, like a lot of these people that I really respect and that I believe in and whose opinion matters to me, who are really valid in the real estate space, have told me like, they don't think this is a good idea. And he asked me one of the most important questions that someone's ever asked me, which is, well, what's the worst thing that happens if you do it? Like, what's the worst thing that happens if you do this and it doesn't work? And I say, well, then I'll know for sure. I'll just know for sure that this thing doesn't work, that this crazy idea I have doesn't work. Well, 2 years and 125 locations and hundreds of agents later, I'm here to say that it does in fact work. My crazy idea obviously wasn't so crazy. It looks like a lot of agents were needing it just like I was, right? And yet, if I hadn't been willing to fail, if I hadn't been willing to say, this isn't going to work for me or anybody else, and I'm unwilling to put myself in a position where I might fail, well, then it never would have happened. There would be so many agents across the country who aren't hitting the real estate goals that they're hitting because of our support, right? So I have to ask myself every time I'm going after a new idea or putting myself in a position where I'm nervous or I'm feeling like the limiting beliefs are getting loud, I just quite simply ask myself, what would I do even if I wasn't going to fail? Would I go after this business venture even if I knew it wasn't going to work? Would I do this thing even if I knew I was going to fail at it? Do I have the courage to do that? And here's the thing, guys, brilliance is in no short supply. And ultimately in most of our organizations, what we need more of is courage. That's the thing that most of us are lacking, the courage to do the thing, even if it doesn't work, the courage to go and do the thing, even if we fail at it, the courage to say the idea, even if it's a bad one. And I don't need more brilliance in my organization. I need a lot of that, but what I do need more of is courage. And I'm guessing so do most of you, right? We need people who have the courage to go out and fail, people who have the courage to go out and look bad at something at the beginning so that they can potentially change the landscape of the business and maybe even the world. Number 7, what would I do if I knew success was guaranteed? What would I do if I knew success was guaranteed? What business venture, what avenue would I take? Would I do the workouts if I knew that for sure if I did them for long enough? And here's the secret to this one. My favorite sort of law of success is the law of compound interest. And the reason I love it so much is because the law in and of itself is neutral, right? Most people think of compound interest as an amazing law that allows your money to compound over time. But I always tell people the law in and of itself is neutral. The hockey stick, so to speak, goes both ways, right? We can grow and compound upward. We can also compound downward. And so I have to ask myself, if I knew success was guaranteed, what would I be doing? And by the way, if we do the right things, if we can line our dominoes up correctly, if we can do the right actions forward for long enough, success is almost always guaranteed if we're willing to do it for long enough, if we're willing to actually be consistent enough, right? Number 8, what habit, if formed or unformed, would drastically change my life? I do a habit audit every single year. I'd be more than happy to send it to anybody on here. I'll send it over to Jenna to include, but I do a yearly audit of all of my habits, the ones even that I think don't matter. And I consistently ask myself, what habit, if formed or unformed, would drastically change my life? We are an accumulation of all of our habits, right? The compound interest that we create both positively and negatively in our life is simply an accumulation, the compound interest of the investment of our habits. Right? So what are we doing day in and day out that's either taking us a step closer to our goals or moving us away from them, or maybe some of them are neutral, but ultimately I'm going to actually assess that and ask myself, what habit, if formed or unformed, would drastically have changed my life? Number 9, why am I uniquely suited to achieve the goals and dreams that I have? One of the most important questions you could answer today. Why am I uniquely suited to achieve the goals and dreams that I have? Here's the thing, guys. I always say that success and failure are just two sides of the pendulum, right? And so we can't have limiting beliefs without having unlimiting beliefs. We can't speak badly about somebody if we're not unwilling to speak the positive about them, right? There's always two sides to the coin. So if you can sit and build the cage around you, talking about all of the limiting beliefs, all the reasons that you can't do something, all the reasons it's not going to work, all the reasons that you're fighting for your limitations, then you can also answer the question on the other side of the pendulum and say, why are you uniquely suited to achieve the goals and dreams that you have? Because here's what I know. Dreams are not bestowed upon us unless we have the DNA to actually achieve them. It just won't be given to you unless you actually have the DNA to achieve it. And so there is something about you. There is a reason that dream was given to you, a reason that idea was given to you. Why are you uniquely suited to achieve the goals and dreams that you have? My bet is that high achievers, as people who are always trying to cover our bases, we're uniquely suited to come up with limiting beliefs, right? We're literally designed to do that. And yet, if we're willing to do that, then we also have to be willing to look at ourselves and say, okay, I now know all the reasons I can't do it. How can I? I've now gathered a list of all of the reasons that I can't do this. How can I? Number 10, in what way do I know the world is conspiring for my success? Guys, I know that the market is challenging right now. I know business might be hard for a lot of you right now. I get it. I get it. Nobody is exempt from that. And yet, I can look backwards at all of the hard times in my life. I bet you guys can too. I can look backwards at all the hard times in my life, all the defining moments, if you will, all the things that just seemed like they were awful and the worst case scenario in the moment. And I can look backwards and say, man, I'm so glad that that happened. The world was conspiring for my success by having that happen. By the way, that doesn't mean it feels good in the moment. That doesn't mean that I enjoy the hard times, but I can look backwards and say, I know the world was conspiring for my success. I can count the coincidences, the people I've met, the coincidences that have happened, the things that felt like they were hard or unfair, or whatever it is at the time, that ended up being for my betterment, for the success of myself, of my organization, of my people, whatever it is. And then number 11, based on my answers, what action do I need to take today? What action do I need to take today? Guys, one of the best ways for you to remove limiting beliefs is to actually just take action toward them. I always tell people the scariest part of any scary movie is when they're running away from the bad guy. Eventually, when they turn around and just confront whatever feels scary, it gets a little bit less frightening. Your life is just like that. The only way that you prove these limiting beliefs wrong is to act against them, to oppose them, and through your results, prove them entirely wrong. That's how you break out of the cage. To go out into the wild and show yourself that you belong there, that you actually know what you're doing, that you actually know how to succeed, that you know that you are worthy of it, that this is possible, this idea is going to work. I always tell people, I'm just unwilling to believe that it will work or not work until I've been proven right or wrong. I have no opinion on it until I've been proven right or wrong. Let's go try it and see. We can't say it's not going to work if we've never tried. Again, strategy sets our ceiling, but effort sets our floor. We have no hope to figure out what we're capable of if we've never taken a step toward it, right? So ask yourself, based off all of these answers, what action do I need to take today? Action cures fear. And that's all limiting beliefs are. Action cures fear. You have to take a step toward it. And the only way to grow your confidence, the only way to change the trajectory is to actually take action on it. So we're going to send these out to everybody. Feel free to take a screenshot of them. But these are my questions I use for my own self. Of course, I have a coach. I don't know many high achievers who don't have a coach. And yet I'm not always, my coach isn't always available to talk me off of the ledge, so to speak. And so I develop these for my own self when I'm feeling stuck, when I feel that the bar is getting tighter, when I feel like I'm in the cage, when I hear those limiting beliefs really loud and I can't get out of my own head, this is what I use. So, so that's my gift to you today, guys. But I would offer you all this. It's just time to unleash. It's too easy to get into the space where you're focused on the limiting beliefs and you get unfocused on all of the possibilities. It's time to unleash, to run wild. And if you guys are waiting for the perfect time or permission to go after your dreams, this is it. Consider this it. If you're waiting for that defining moment, consider this it, because there's never going to be a perfect time to start becoming the person that you were born to be. So shouldn't you just start now? There's never going to be a perfect time for you to take action to get to, and you're never going to be closer to your dreams than you are today. So shouldn't you just take action now? I mean, the time's going to pass either way. So you might as well spend it in pursuit of something more. And at some point, guys, we have to embrace the uncomfortable, the uncertainty, and take action, because it's the only path forward. Action is the only path forward. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's not circumstance. It's developing a great plan and then executing that plan day in and day out until the visions in your head become your reality. So let's stop praying to live a challenge-free life. And let's start praying that the challenges that come our way give us the strength to transform into the greatest version of ourselves, into the person that we were born to be. Because a big life never promised to be an easy one. A big life never promised to be an easy one. So let's give up to the lie that it's supposed to be. And guys, I'll leave everybody with this. I don't know. I hope to one day get to meet all of you, but I don't know you personally. So I don't know what's hidden inside of you. I have no way of knowing that. I don't know your aspirations, your talents, your secret longings, but I know something amazing lives in you. Something miraculous lives in all of you. And bringing that to life, guys, it takes work and faith and focus and courage and hours of devotion. And the clock is ticking and the world is spinning, and you simply don't have time anymore to think small, because success, it's not going to interrupt you. Your dream life is not going to interrupt you. You will have to go find it, build it, craft it, and create it, because success is never an accident. It is always on purpose. And this life is not intended to be a passive experience. It's intended to be a call to action. And I know that people, you were born and able to greatness. Success is your birthright. I believe that. And this is an opportunity for you to make a decision about who you want to be in this world. And as a result of becoming that person, what you might also achieve. So decide now, because life is short and rare and amazing and miraculous. And I'm going to ask all of you to be daring with what you believe is possible, and to be audacious in your vision for your life. And above all, remember that, you guys were born to run wild, and only you can decide if you are willing to remain caged, or if you're going to step out and do what you were born to do what your basic instincts call you to do, which is to succeed. Good news is you get to decide, and bad news is you get to decide. Chris, should we open it up for questions? I see
Nikki,
chat starting to come through.
Yeah, we will definitely do that. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A. That's the easiest place for us to spot them. So Nikki, first of all, thank you. I think we have about 270 lions that are be running around the rest of the day, and hopefully the rest of their lives. So I had some questions as I listened to you. You mentioned early on that this, the genesis for some of these thoughts was a conversation you had with a coach. And it's funny, I meet with my coach as soon as this call is over. So many people are resistant to the idea of having a coach. What do you think that is? What do you think stops people from taking that step to help themselves get to where they want to go?
Because it doesn't feel good, right? Like, Chris, I know I'm coaching with the right, I'm never excited to talk to my coach. Like, that probably sounds terrible, but I'm never excited to talk to my coach. I put some big, audacious goals and visions at the beginning of the year, and like getting there is going to take work. Just like I said earlier, work and faith and focus and a lot of courage, and it's not going to feel good. And frankly, being accountable to yourself, to the people around you, that it's never a comfortable feeling. So we have to make a decision about, do we care more about being comfortable, or do we care more about achieving what we set out to achieve? Like, which one is it? Because you have to choose one. What matters to you more, being comfortable or setting out to achieve what you want to achieve? Because it doesn't feel good. Growth doesn't feel good, right? I always give the physical representation of, I don't know how many of you have kids, but I have a daughter who's starting to get growing pains, and she'll say, my legs hurt and my arms hurt, or whatever it is, and it's growing pains. It's a physical representation of her body stretching, right? It hurts. It doesn't feel good. And I think that when we get a coach, a good one, and they hold us to our possibility, it's usually a regular, uncomfortable conversation that we're signing up for. And if you don't have a coach that's holding you to your possibility, well, then you probably have the wrong one. I know I personally coach people, and I just had a coaching call this morning with someone in my world, and they said, man, like, I'm suffering a little bit right now. And I said, good, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Like, this period of growth is not going to be comfortable. So you're doing the right things, right?
Yep. Yeah. So very true. Someone asked the question, are there any books that come to mind that would address some of these same sort of limiting beliefs or mindset things that agents could use for their team members or for themselves?
Oh yeah, I mean, so many. I read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius every year. I'm a huge follower of Stoic philosophy. I'd highly encourage all of you to pick that one up. Just sort of the mentality around, challenging times and challenging people and challenging things. Very much encourage all of you to pick that one up. There's a book, I'm trying to think of a few others that I would recommend specifically around mindset. There's a book called Big Magic, and it's very it's more focused around creativity, but some of the mindset pieces in there are really valuable, really focused around like just going and doing what calls to you, doing what you believe to be the right step forward. As I said before, I fundamentally don't believe that dreams are bestowed upon us unless we are designed to achieve them. And so if it's been given to you, then you have a responsibility to see if you can make it unfold. And if you don't, then someone else will, right? And so I would very much encourage both of those. It was meditations. I saw the question in the chat. Meditation. Second one is Big Magic. I mean, I can think of, Chris, you probably have some great recommendations too. I can think of so many. Right now I'm rereading Think Again as well by Adam Grant. Highly recommend that book, really about changing perspective and really rethinking things. And while not a mindset book, technically, it is a thinking book, and I'm very focused around how to think through challenges and changing landscapes. And for, I think, the world that we're in and the one that we're going into, which is changing rapidly, I would encourage all of you to pick that up right now.
That's great, all great recommendations. So you get to talk to a lot of agents on a regular basis, not just in doing things like this, but the ones that actually are in your lead syndicate. What's the current single biggest challenge that you're dealing with in helping them?
I would say right in this moment, the thing that I've seen, it's definitely this, which is why we ended up having this conversation as opposed to another one, right? As opposed to a more tactical real estate conversation. I would say this is a big piece, right? Limiting beliefs and people, listening to the wrong people, listening to the wrong avenues, listening to the wrong, news outlets, whatever it is. And really the second part of that is focus. We all get to make a decision every single second about what we're choosing to focus on, right? And we can choose to focus on all of the reasons and all of the ways that we can't. We can spin ourselves out of control, or we can stay focused on what matters most, and we can incrementally take steps towards the end result that we're looking for. And that's where most people, most agents specifically, and I think most people in general, get mixed up from a success standpoint, right? That they just get out of focus and start listening to the wrong people, or focusing on the wrong things, or getting distracted by the wrong things. I mean, again, the world is not designed for us to succeed. So we're every day we're in the digital deluge. Like, I even look at people who wear the Apple watches. I'm like, I can't imagine having one more way for somebody to get a hold of me, right? And so we have to be very protective over our time, over what we're focusing on. More than ever, we've got to be laser focused. Yeah, Mike said it, Dominant Thoughts. It's the perfect book recommendation, right? And really, it's about being laser focused on what matters most, and on what we need to do, like what we actually have to do in order to move ourselves and our business forward, because nobody's coming to do it for you. You've got to stay focused on what matters most. And if you don't, then again, good news is you get to decide. Bad news is you get to decide. It's your choice either way. Yep.
And it's much easier to maintain that focus when you have a goal that's really important.
Yeah.
That anchor that keeps you going. Oh, again, if you have questions, it looks like there's no one in here. So here's another question. How important is being physically fit and competitive as it, and how does that impact your business? That's like, you've talked a lot about the mental side of it, the limiting beliefs, but what about the other aspects of our life? How important is that for people to achieve at their peak performance or peak level?
Man, I love that question, because I don't think that we talk about it enough. I always say growth never exists in one vertical, right? Like we never grow in one silo. And so we have to make sure that we understand how everything connects. And here's how I always liken the physical fitness aspect. When I take somebody through, I call it like a future visioning exercise. And if you were to close your eyes and really envision yourself 5 years from now, like, where do you want to be? Maybe you're standing on a big stage, maybe you're getting the award, maybe you're standing in front of your team, maybe you're retired, like whatever it is. How do you feel? Like, what do you envision your body feeling like? And I don't know anybody who gets out of that future visioning exercise and is like, man, I'm feeling really weak and overweight and short of breath. Like, we want to feel powerful, right? And if we're going to demand the most of our bodies and of our mindset, we need to be at our physical best too, right? There's a reason that all of these things are connected. There's a reason that most great mindset coaches, you'll find them in the professional sports world, right? Because ultimately they know that even if we are physically fit, we have to be fit up here, and vice versa, right? It all works together. The body is congruent. It's not just our minds working, but our bodies as well, and vice versa. So for me, being physically fit is everything. I don't think I can demand as much of my body as I do between the travel and the work and being a mom and a partner and a friend and all of these things. Like, I don't think I can demand that of myself if I'm not feeding my body and exercising the right way in order to give back, right? You know, it's overused, but like we do only have one place to live. I'm gonna make the most of the one that I got.
Yeah, strong body, strong mind.
That's right.
So, Nikki, let's get like really specific and tactical on the topic of follow-up, right? We know that we have a couple jobs as agents. It's generating leads or acquiring leads, however we're doing it, and then effectively following up. And that's where most agents I see either succeed at a high level or fail miserably. What are you teaching your group about follow-up, and what are you stressing and having them focus on?
This is going to be an unpopular way to put it, but like, stay with me. I always talk about mindless follow-up and mindless lead gen. And what I mean by that, like, I love your social post, Chris, because you articulate this so beautifully, which is, we just don't have that many jobs as agents, right? And in our organization, we literally take away all the other jobs. And so we coach our people to have mindless lead gen and mindless follow-up. And what that means is when I put my shoes on and tie them, it's mindless. Like, I'm not thinking about, okay, cross the bunny and put it through the loop, right? It's just mindless. I've done this so many times that I just go right into it, right? When I go for a run, it's just mindless, right? I've done it so many times, it's just a habit. There's so many things. When I get into my car, put it in drive and start driving away, mindless, right? But at some point, it wasn't. At some point, I really had to think about how to tie those shoes. At some point, I had to really think about what route I was going to run, or how long it was going to take, or how far I could go. At some point, I had to really think about, okay, first I check my mirror and then I reverse. Like, at some point, it's unnatural. And you have to do it for long enough that it becomes a habit and becomes mindless. So we say, we get it ready the same time every day. Like, we deliver this to our agents, but it's, hey, who you need to call is set the night before. Your follow-up is set the night before. What script you're going to use is set the night before, so that when you walk in the morning, it is the first thing our people do, and it is mindless. Because the more we have to think about it, the more we have to make a decision about it, the less likely we are to actually do it. So we need to get it all set up for ourselves, so we can't make the excuse or get distracted again. What action are we avoiding by making this more complicated than it actually is? Like, we take the complication out of it so we can just get right into it. And eventually that becomes enough of a habit that it becomes mindless, right? It's just something that we do every day.
I love that. Love that. Yeah. Okay. So here's another tactical, specific question. In the first conversation, the first interaction that you have with a consumer, regardless of where that lead was generated from, what are the things you're stressing to your team, and how do you coach them to be effective in that first conversation?
Yeah, this is a great question, because I think that I can tell the difference between someone who has a lot of experience with, especially online lead gen or aggregator lead gen, versus someone who doesn't, just by how they answer this question. Because if somebody's calling on 123 Main Street and you give them all the information on 123 Main Street, what happens? They hang up. They're like, thanks so much for giving me all the information that I asked for. So our goal is to stay on the phone for as short a time as possible, and to set the appointment as fast as possible. Like, that's what we ingrain into our agents, because the likelihood of you converting that goes up drastically. In our organization, we've done the math because we track everything, and the conversion increases by 70%, 70%, if we get in front of the consumer after the first call, right? So the goal is to set the appointment. I need to know as little as possible for it to make sense to set the appointment, and that's the goal. So our goal is to set it as quickly as possible, to jump on there, jump off the phone as quickly as possible with the information that we need, and a secure date, time, and place that we're meeting.
Yeah, that's so important. It's just a different world that we're in today. In the past, we would always say, no, you're never going to go on an appointment unless you pre-qualify, and have them jump through all these hoops. Consumers aren't going to do that anymore. Nope. If you make it difficult or create too much friction, they're going to go somewhere else. So the agents that are capturing the business are the ones that are doing just exactly what you said, Nikki.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the consumer it's more likely for them to work with the first agent they talk to, not the best, right? They're not vetting 13 agents. They're just want to get the information they need. And then here's a place, you asked earlier what I see like most agents being challenged with right now. And here's a place where I'm seeing a lot of agents being challenged, not in our organization, because we coach a lot on this. But they'll work with the agent who moves them through the funnel, right? It used to be that the consumer was moving themselves through the funnel. Like, I think that's been the biggest fundamental shift that I've seen in real estate over the course of the last year, like 18 months or so, about a year and a half, is that they were moving themselves through the funnel. Like, they were highly motivated. They were figuring it out. They were moving themselves through the funnel. That's changed. If we want someone to buy or sell short of like true urgency, right? Short of an actual defined urgency, we have to move through the funnel. In our world, we say this is what happens next, right? Like we get them through the funnel. Now that we've met, this is what happens next. This is what happens next. This is what happens next. Because if you're not doing that, they're unlikely to move themselves through, because there's so much noise happening in the real estate market. They're going to have Uncle Bob tell them that it's not a good time to buy, and they're going to get in their head about it. Or they're going to have, Aunt Peggy say, you're really selling your house right now, the market's crazy, right? So we have to be responsible for really moving them through the funnel right now.
Yep. Yes. No Aunt Peggy's or Uncle Bob's.
No Aunt Peggy's or Uncle Bob's.
Jeremiah, I know we're running. First of all, Nikki, this has been awesome. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for everyone for being here. No one leave, because Jeremiah has stuff you want to end with. And Jeremiah, were there any questions that I missed for Nikki before we wrap up?
No, I think you covered them all, but I'd love to give Nikki an opportunity to just give us a parting thought and close out, and then I'll wrap up the Ojo stuff. And if you're still here, at the very end, we're going to give away merch. So hang with us.
Well, first and foremost, thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you for all of you who took time out of your day to be here. I certainly don't take that lightly. So thank you for spending an hour with us. Very much appreciate it. My second thought is I don't have any Ojo swag, so I would very much like some Ojo swag. A dress coming your guys' way. And my third thought is this, guys, I always tell people we don't get to control the first thought that comes through, but we do get to make a decision about what we do with that thought. And our minds are liars. Like, we don't have to believe them. And I fundamentally believe that we are all born and able to greatness. We were literally designed to succeed. And if we don't get there, it's because we got in our own way somewhere. So get out of your way, use these questions, get into action. And if somebody around you is imposing their limiting beliefs upon you, I'd invite you to just give them back. They're not yours, they're theirs. Let them advocate for them staying where they are, and allow them to go and be average somewhere else. They don't have to do it around you. So you need to advocate for your own greatness right now. And so I would encourage you to use these questions, to use these tactics to go and do that, to get out of the cage and go build that dream business and dream life. That's what you were born to do. And I'll throw my info in the chat, my link tree, for anyone who wants to connect.
Awesome. Thanks again, Nikki. For those of you on here, hit the reactions, give Nikki a round of applause, a virtual one via the reactions. Thank you so much. This was absolutely nothing short of inspiring. So many nuggets. I'm sure that the recap is going to be amazing. We'll cut this up into a bunch of pieces. We'll share it. Our team does a tremendous job at those, and you can see all the love flowing in from everybody here. So thank you all so much for being with us today. I'm going to go over, I think we only have about 3 slides, just some quick kind of stuff on how to win with Ojo. Nikki and Chris alluded to this. The consumer expectations have changed. And the key is to quickly be able to build rapport, set an appointment, and learn about the consumer's motivation. Chris and I have done a bunch of videos on this. Our coaching partners do videos on this. If you are not plugged into the Connect, Set, Learn framework, you definitely want to get plugged into this. This is the playbook that the top teams, that the top agents on Ojo, and really on any online lead source are using to win. Be enthusiastic, smile, connect with the consumer as soon as you make that first call. Second is move directly to what they want, which is they want to set a time to see a property. So set that appointment. You'll figure out later if it's still available. You'll find another property to show them if it's not available. And then learn about their motivation. This first call is all about them. It's about understanding what their wants, their needs, their dreams, and how you can help fulfill those. So keep it focused on them, and you always will win. Next up, we're seeing this happen more recently that, an agent changes brokerage or leaves a team or joins a team and they forget to tell us. So this is your reminder that if you are changing brokerages, changing teams, building a team, leaving a team, whatever it is, go and fill out our brokerage update form. The link is going to be in the chat. And then you can also always go to support@ojo.com, or you can call us and we will help you get this done. Just keep in mind, you want to keep this current with us because it helps everything move faster and smoother, when you do have success and you're closing a transaction. And finally, Stump the Scriptmaster. We did this a few months ago. We got raving feedback about this, so we are bringing it back. It's next week. The link to register is in the chat. So there's two links there: change your brokerage help article. The second one is register here. That's for Stump the Scriptmaster. It's next week, June 5th, 1 p.m. There's some topics here, but hey, this is your opportunity to come and try and stump our panel of experts. Give them your toughest objections to handle in this market. So please join us for that. Again, thank you so much, Nikki. We appreciated you. Now, if you're still with us, and there's well over 200 of you that are still with us, this is your opportunity. Go drop your, RJ Jenkins already knows, drop your name in the chat. And when you do that, we will randomly select one or two of you to send some swag, some Ojo swag out to you. So be on the lookout from our team. Nikki, I promise we will get you some swag too. Heller just approved the rec for the swag expense. So we'll make sure we get that out. For the rest of you, thank you so much. I will leave you with a parting thought. I wrote this down from what Nikki said, which is, if you argue for your limitations, congratulations, you get to keep them. What a great speech today. Thank you so much for sharing the keynote with us. It's been our pleasure to host you. Thank you all for being great partners in the Ojo Select Network. Drop your name in there. Jenna will get these selected. Watch out for an email from her, and we will see you next week on Stump the Scriptmaster. Thank you.